Yes, I can see it.
All right, thank you. Okay, so my time says it's 16:03. I think we can get started now. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Domisa Musonda, and I will be your moderator for today's internship experience webinar. So thank you so much for joining, for making the time to attend this webinar. We're pleased to have you here. Before we get into the main discussion, I'll just run you through housekeeping and the agenda for today so that you have an idea of how things are going to flow. So you're expected to keep your mics muted unless you're asked to do otherwise. Of course, this is to avoid disturbances throughout the session. You should also keep your video off. And please feel free to ask questions. Please feel free to get involved in the chat section, type in your questions, comments, feedback. Would really love to hear from you. So please don't hold back. Just keep those comments coming. Let us know you're here. Let us know you're enjoying the session. So we're going to start. Okay, we've already been through the welcome remarks. We've already been through housekeeping. And the next thing we're getting into is the main discussion. So we have 3 speakers for today's webinar, and I will introduce each one of them right before they speak. So the main discussion will just be them giving us their presentations. And then after that, we're going to get into the Q&A session. So after the Q&A session, then we'll move and we'll close the webinar. All right. Okay. So our first guest speaker is a 4th-year economics student at the University of Zambia. And she is co-founder of the 500 Lives Project, which aims at reducing inequalities in Zambia. She's also a once executive committee member of the University of Zambia Business and Economics Association, which is known as UNZABECA, also known as UNZABECA. So she currently serves as the University of Zambia Volleyball Club treasurer, FINIMA's community host for Zambia, and World Literacy Foundation ambassador for Zambia 2020. In addition to this, she volunteers for the Zambian chapter of the global movement Fashion Revolution, Women Up Africa, Impact Hub Lusaka, TEDx Lusaka, and the Preston Leadership Foundation. She also writes for the Rational Observer and is a member of the Zca's Toastmasters Club. Everyone, please join me in welcoming our first speaker for today's session, Rhoda Kakoma. Hi, Rhoda.
Hi, Domisa. Can you see my screen? I've begun sharing.
Yes, I can.
Great. Thank you for that great introduction. I didn't know that someone would describe me in so many ways, but thank you.
All right. We're pleased to have you here today.
Thank you. So I'll get right into the presentation. I'm sharing my internship experience at Zambia's first and leading technology and innovation hub, Bongo Hive. So if you've heard of Bongo Hive, it's basically a technology and innovation hub. So my presentation is going to cover your questions about my internship experience, and it will talk about 9 items. So the first one being, do you think interns get exploited, and how does one who feels like they are deal with it? Number 2 will be, do you think it's smart to take up an internship while you're in university? 3 is, how do you balance getting your degree and internship? 4 is, does the place you intern from matter? 5 is, most people believe that just like it is with getting an actual job, you need prior experience to be recruited as an intern. Is that entirely true? Or is getting an internship more about gaining experience? 6 is, not if not, what are some of the skills every prospective intern should have? 7 is, what are some of the skills you think people should focus on acquiring that aren't exactly necessary? 8 is there an age limit to an intern? 9 is, what are some of the expectations you have had before starting as an intern, and were they significantly different from reality? So if at any point you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and then I'll take them at the end of the presentation. So we get into question 1. It says, do you think interns get exploited? And how does one who feels like they are being exploited deal with it? Well, I understand the perspective from which this question was asked is probably because students, usually interns, get a stipend. So a stipend is like a small allowance as opposed to a salary. So it's very easy for you to feel like you're being exploited. Personally, I feel like the exploitation comes more in terms of the intern being given more roles than was in their job description. And therefore, I feel that in a situation where an intern is given more roles than they had in their job description, it may feel like they're being exploited. So, yes, to a certain extent, interns do get exploited. But how does one who feels like they're getting exploited deal with it? Basically, I encourage you to be vocal about it. In the corporate world, it's very important to you for you to voice out issues. So, as an adult, as a person in a corporate setting, you need to be able to speak out when something doesn't sit right with you. The next question was, do you think it's smart to take up an internship while in uni? Again, I will remind you that everything I say in this presentation is based on my experience as Rhoda, not that it's true for everyone. But I feel like taking an internship while you're in university is the best time because you're super excited to test all the theory that you're currently learning in school and validate it in a real life setting. So for me, being able to intern at Bongo Hive while in university was a great time for me to explore and really see some of these things we learn in class. Do they really even use them in corporate settings? Those were some of the questions I was able to address during my internship. Third question is, how do you balance up getting your degree and an internship? This one was my favorite question from all of them because I believe it's really tough. It's tough to balance both getting a degree and an internship. I've felt the burnout before because it takes a lot of mental strength for you to balance between studying, between your roles that you're required to do from work. So this was literally me last year. So I started my internship sometime in July last year and I went on it for 10 months. So my internship was remote. That means that all of the team at Bongo Hive were working from home. And so we had internet facilities in our homes. Each of us had internet, and all we did was working from 9 to 5 online. That means from 9 hours in the morning, I need to be working till 17. So you'd wonder, what time was I studying? So in my internship experience, I basically learned how it's important to keep these two items in their own boxes. So for me, it was, I did spend 9 to 5 doing my job, but on certain days I'd ask for permission, especially when I have a number of classes online, to focus solely on my school. So when it's time for school, I kept school on my mind. And when it was time for work, I kept work on my mind. So it's keeping each of these things in their own boxes and not allowing them to interfere, because when they do, your mental health is affected. Number 4 is, does the place you intern from matter? I feel like it's a complete yes with this one, and it does depend on your field of interest. So before you decide on a place you want to intern, you need to think about your career trajectory, like where are you going in terms of your career. Do you want to end up in an equity firm? Do you want to end up as a finance manager or just something in those lines? You need to think about it and take deliberate steps to intern in a place that you see yourself going. But for me personally, I decided to, or I got the offer to intern at Bongo High, which has nothing to do with my initial career trajectory, which was to have a stable career in finance. Obviously, because I'm a student of economics, my future at the time I was thinking, oh no, I'll end up doing finance. But because I was allowed the opportunity to intern in an innovation hub, I was open-minded enough to learn so many things that sort of helped me pivot in terms of what I really want to do with my future. So sometimes it's not all the time that you know that I want to intern at Ministry of Finance because I want to do finance. sometimes you must be open-minded enough to take any internship so that you see and explore different fields. The next question says, most people believe that just like with getting an actual job, you need prior experience to be recruited as an intern. Is that entirely true? Or is getting an internship more about gaining experience than it is about what you have to offer? So for this one, I think getting an internship is more about the experience than it is about what you have to offer. So it's more about you learning skills and applying what you've learned in uni at the internship itself. So what are some of the skills? This one's a mini question from the previous. If not, what are some of the skills every prospective intern should have? And what are some of the skills every prospective intern should have? So my number one skill for each and every prospective intern, I would say, is the ability to think critically. In a corporate setting, no one's going to push you to think or to bring out ideas from your head. So it's very different from the lecturing point of view or the university lifestyle. In university, we always attend lectures, and when the lecturer asks a question, we're all quiet, and it's like as if we're not thinking, like we're not wanting to bring out ideas or wanting to bring out what's on our minds. But in the corporate setting, people expect you to be on your toes, especially when you're an intern. You need to be ready to bring out ideas. I'll give an example. My supervisor always told me that they were impressed with how I would bring out ideas, even for things I had no idea about. Like there were things that were super complicated, but I would always try to understand what people are talking about and give my opinion. And for that, that's something very important, to be able to think critically and share ideas no matter the complexity of the situation. What are some of the skills you think people focus on acquiring that aren't exactly necessary? So again, here I want to talk about the skill of being coachable. So I feel like when you're in university, we are more book driven and we're usually leaning on our books. We always want to job and always want to open our books and refer to the things in the notes. So we have that memorizing ability, as opposed to in the corporate world where they expect you to be more flexible, more open-minded, just ready to think on your toes and bring out ideas randomly. So it's to be able to learn, to be coachable in a way that you're moving away from your books, questioning the things that you learned in your books and validating them as you practice in your internship. That's an important skill. Another important skill I'll say is number one is time management. Respecting people's time is very important in the corporate world. If you show up late for a meeting, it obviously means that you don't respect your time and the person who's waiting for you's time. That should always be number one. Another thing is also learning office etiquette and culture. So every organization you go to has an etiquette and they have culture. So for me at Bongo Hive, we have a culture where we use the word yes and, the quotes yes and. So it means that when everyone's in a formal meeting and we're discussing something, you always use the words yes and, even though you don't agree with what the person's saying. And what this does, it promotes a positive environment and a positive culture. So you need to learn what are the cultures that exist in this organization I'm interning for, and how can I create value from those cultures and how can I adopt those cultures. And finally, I'll touch on a most important skill that's necessary. It's asking for feedback from your supervisors. So every time you perform a particular task, it's important to go back and check for feedback. With Toastmasters, we say feedback is the breakfast for champions. So it means everything you do, you must be able to go back and say, how did I do? You get feedback so that you improve on it better the next time. So this is just a picture of me and my team to encourage you. And this picture was basically to show you how it's important to learn how to work in a team. So one of the skills that people look for in interns is the ability to work in a team and to adapt easily. Is there an age limit to being an intern? I think most organizations have a minimum age of 18 years for the purpose of being an adult, but I don't think I've ever seen an upper limit to being an intern, because sometimes people experience situations where they go straight from uni into getting a master's degree, but after getting a master's, it's not obvious that you immediately go high up the hierarchy. You can still start from an internship position and then learn. So basically, the internship position is for you to learn. So no, the answer to this question is no, there's no age limit to being an intern. The final question now, what are some of the expectations you had before starting out as an intern, and did they differ significantly from reality? So the expectations I had before I started my internship, and I'll be very honest with you, is I thought I'd be getting money. Like I thought I'd be getting a salary, to be honest, but I didn't understand it from that perspective. Like an intern is not necessarily someone who gets all the time gets money. So it was to my surprise that I was getting a stipend, which was okay. But in in terms of my expectations, my biggest expectation was on the salary part. But it's okay. At the end of the day, it's everyone has their own expectations for roles. And my other expectations include the ability to learn different things, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity for having interned at Bongo Hive, because I was able to learn more about the ecosystem for entrepreneurs and to be able to apply human-centered design to creating programs for students. So I'm very thankful for the opportunity. And yeah, I'll just encourage each and everyone to, you can have your expectations, but sometimes it's not all the time that your expectations may be met. So I'll just leave you with a quote to encourage you. It's an anonymous quote, and it says, "The expert in anything was once a beginner." I read it again. "The expert in anything was once a beginner." So what this means is, no matter what you do, if you do take up an internship role, don't worry about the people who are above you, because they once started somewhere. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that, Rhoda. That was an extremely enlightening presentation. We really appreciate that. Thank you. I just want to remind everyone that you're allowed to ask questions. You can get interactive through the chat section. Feel free to drop in those questions, feedback, comments, anything. We really appreciate that. Yeah, and also just a reminder that your mic should be muted at all times. Please use the controls at the bottom of your screen and ensure that your mic is muted throughout the session. Now, our second guest speaker is also a fourth-year economics student at the University of Zambia, and she is currently serving as the University of Zambia Business and Economics Association Project Committee's chairperson. Please join me in welcoming Nelly Mambwe-Mofia. Nelly, over to you.
Hi, Domisa. Thank you so much. Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to our attendees. So thank you for giving me a privilege to share my internship experience. And I was sent a few questions that I will answer during today's presentation. But just to narrow everything down, so during this presentation, we'll discuss what an internship is, required skills, the challenges that I personally faced during my internship, and a few tips that can help each one of you to gain an internship while you're during university. Okay, so I came across this random definition on an All About Careers website, and it basically defines an internship as a period of work experience offered by an employer to give students or recent graduates exposure to the working environment. It's usually done within a specific industry, and it usually relates to your field of study. So for some programs at the University of Zambia, internships are mandatory. But for most programs under the School of Humanities and Social Sciences, most business-related programs, it's not mandatory for you to graduate, for you to take an internship before you graduate. That means it's entirely up to you whether to step up and look for an internship or to sit back and relax. So then why should you step up and look for an internship? We can start by looking at an inspiring quote from the famous Albert Einstein. He says, the only source of knowledge is work experience. So getting the actual experience is actually more important than the knowledge you are getting. And to make your knowledge even more valuable, you must get the work experience. And that's why it's more attractive to employers when you are graduating from school and you have something on your resume that shows that you gained that work experience. So I'll give a basic description of my personal internship. So I worked for a small company called Multi Solutions for Africa. It's a company it's a social impact company that promotes financial inclusion and financial literacy. It also runs short trainings and runs a village bank, an online village bank that helps multiple people improve their accessibility to financial services. So how I got in, so there was an ad on social media, and I must mention.
Sorry. Nelly.
Yes, can you get me?
I'm sorry to cut you short, Nelly. Vincent, could you please mute your mic? I think we're getting some feedback. Somebody has their mic on. Vincent, I think this is Vincent Kawina. Vincent, could you please mute your mic? Hello? All right, thank you. Sorry for that.
Okay, it's okay. So how I got in, there were ads running
Please
on
go
social
ahead,
media.
Nelly.
Hello, can you get me now, Domisa? Hello, can you get me?
We can get you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so how I got in, there were ads running on social media, and my good classmate and friend, Rhoda, sent me an ad via WhatsApp showing that a company called Multi Solutions for Africa were looking for an intern. And so I applied for it online and fortunately got feedback to make it to an interview, and I got interviewed online, and I was called to actually appear and get the internship. So the title was, I was a financial inclusion and financial literacy intern, and it was a 3-month agreement. And my job was narrowed down to financial inclusion and financial literacy. But when I actually started working, it was different from what I actually expected, because then I had to do multiple things. Initially when it started, there was some business planning involved, but then there was also reaching out to customers frequently, calling different people and telling them about our products and services. To some extent, there was administrative work, and I had to send emails to multiple people and ensure they give feedback and send all the required documents in order to join the online bank. And so it was a wide range of activities, so it wasn't narrowed down to what the actual agreement was, but that still gave me an opportunity to learn more things from my employer. So we now talk about ways to find an internship. So the most common way is an online search. Thanks to social media, there are pages on Facebook that are restricted to job-related adverts. So take the initiative to like those pages and look out for any ads relating to openings for interns, and do apply for them. When it comes to business-related programs, you have a wide range of opportunities that are present before you. So take advantage of that. You're not restricted to working in a hospital or to working in a mine. You can work for a variety of companies and offer a variety of services. So do take advantage of that and apply for as many openings as possible. There are websites. The most common social media platform that has job-related adverts is LinkedIn. So if you haven't yet joined it, please do consider joining it and building your profile through that platform. That will give you more opportunities. Another way you can find an internship is networking, which can be as basic as talking to your aunt and uncle and telling them you're looking for an opening. So get to know people and also let them know that you're actually looking for an internship. You never know who's going to land you at your next big opportunity. So other than talking to people like friends and relatives, you must also get to know a few people in the corporate world. And I would suggest an association that that has personally helped me is Unza Beka.
Hello, Nelly, are you still there? Hello?
Hi, I think we lost her.
All right.
Probably due to network. So I think we can wait for a few minutes.
All right. In the meantime, there are some questions in the chat that came during Rhoda's presentation.
Oh, I think she's back. Hi, Nelly.
Hi, sorry for that, Domisa. Let me just share my screen.
Okay.
All right, so I think the last thing I was saying was business-related programs are pretty wide. So do identify your strengths and what you're actually interested in, and be able to identify the company you want to work at, and you can find out if there are any openings and you can take your application there. So moving on, I'd like to talk about some of the basic skills that are required for you to get an internship. Obviously, you should be computer literate, so get to know the Microsoft suite. And we usually take these short courses, these computer skill courses, like, and claim we know how to use Excel. Most of us obviously know how to use Word because we get to type multiple assignments using it. But then with Excel, if you're not practicing, you're not going to remember and you're not going to know how to use it. So you have perhaps a certificate that says you can use Excel, but because you haven't been practicing, you don't really know how to use it. And I felt like I was in that position when I started interning, because I realized that I had to often rush back to YouTube or Google to check out the extra features on Excel. So when you do take that short computer course, do take the time to frequently practice the Microsoft suites, especially Excel, which is usually used by business people in the business field or any finance related field. You must be at least tech savvy, which is simply well informed about how to use modern computers. In this modern world, and because of COVID-19, most jobs require you to work from home. So at least know how to use most of the online platforms, because that's going to put you in a better position to work. Data analysis skills are also relevant, and interpersonal skills, because you're going to be working with a number of people, so you must know how to relate with them. So some of the skills I learned, I did take many short courses in computer literacy skills or computer skills before I did my internship, but I honestly felt like I improved on my Excel after I started working, because I got a chance to do some business planning, which is related to the next thing that I mentioned there. So that helped me improve or build my Excel skills. Also, customer relations, like I mentioned, I was frequently required to make phone calls, reach out to customers, tell them about our products and services, or remind them to make some of their payments. And I didn't like it because it was somewhat intimidating to always call people. But then I got used to it as time went by. I kind of learned how to relate to people, how to be more, how to find it easier to talk to people. And to some extent, that helped me as I was working there. So another thing was networking. I was also required to organize a few things, a few events for the firm. And one event that I did help organizing was the Women's Financial Dialogue, which helped promote financial literacy. So I needed to reach out to multiple people and work with different ladies that would make this event a success. That gave me an opportunity to know more people, and some of those contacts I still have on my phone and I can still reach out to frequently. So now I'll talk about the challenges I faced. So the internship wasn't during my back, school was still on. So some days I'd report for work and at the same time classes would be going on. So I'd miss classes, and weekend was the time when I would have to catch up with some of the few classes that I missed on the days when I reported for work. So it was kind of busy because the weekend, when you kind of want to relax, then you have extra schoolwork that has been pending and you have to catch up on it. And so that was a challenge for me to balance between school and going for work. Also expenses, like Rhoda mentioned, they don't pay much. They only covered part of my transport expenses, not all of it. And so that was a challenge for me. Also, pandemic restrictions, I couldn't report for work every day, only on a few days of the week. And so the days when I was home, I personally felt like it was a challenge because I couldn't get supervision, clear supervision. It was kind of hard to be corrected on or told on what exactly I'm supposed to do. And that kind of made it a challenge. Also, the work involved, as an intern, you're trying to get that experience. It's your first time, and some of the things they tell you to do, you don't actually know how to go about them. So at times I'd be given assignments and not manage to finish within the stipulated time. And so trying to build my speed turned out to be a challenge for me. But with time, I definitely got better. Okay, so the next slide. This is the end of my presentation. I'd also love to emphasize that what I've shared during the presentation is not necessarily my former employer's thoughts, but my personal, related to my personal experience. I think let me just scroll back up because there's a picture, yes. So when I go to that slide, I should have mentioned that the picture in the background, that's me and my boss. Her name is Memory. She was very friendly, so I did enjoy working with her. She made it much easier. And the co-founder, she was a co-founder of the firm. She is a co-founder of the firm, and her fellow co-founder, Buyoti, was also very friendly. So they made the environment somewhat conducive. You can see the office space was an open office space. So there were other people in the same room. And so that's why I mentioned that things like interpersonal skills are important. You must know how to relate with people because you're going to be in the same, confined to the same space with other people. And so it's important that you maintain the good atmosphere. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my internship experience.
Okay, thank you for that, Nelly. Thank you for that interesting presentation. Please keep those questions coming. We'll get to them at the end. And one thing I forgot to mention at the beginning of the webinar, if your question is directed to a particular speaker, please put their name alongside your question so that they're the ones to answer it at the end. Yeah, but if it's just general and anyone can answer it, then you could just leave it like that. All right, so we're going to our last speaker now. So our last speaker for today is a University of Zambia graduate. And while at the university, he majored in economics and he was a business administration minor. During the course of his final years, he served as Nzabeka vice president. He is an entrepreneur and a certified investment advisor, and he's also a former investment associate at Amano Capital. I am pleased to present Bob Uli. Hi, Bob.
Hey, how are you?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm good. I'm loving this.
That's nice. I'm loving it too. This is a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, this was a very brilliant idea. I wish we could have had something like this during our time. We used to have small meetings, but I wish we could have had webinars as well. Because I must say, I'm learning a number of things, and these things are not only applicable to internships, but these are things that I feel people need to work with, in actual jobs and in when you're doing business, when you're doing entrepreneurship. So these are very, very important points that we need to take down.
I actually agree with you.
True. Anyway, let me get to it. First and foremost, I would like to say that Nelly and Rhoda have given us quite some brilliant points, and those were very, very insightful presentations. I'm just hoping everyone is really taking down the points that they shared with us, because this is very vital information. Yes. And on my part, I think what I'm gonna do is just kind of like give a summary or conclude on what the two speakers have shared with each and everyone. So where do I start? First and foremost, I'm sure there are people out there that are asking themselves, but okay, you've talked about all these things, but why? Like, why should one do an internship? Why can't I just focus on studying? Why can't I just, cram every day, get my good grades, and after school, I would get an internship or get a good job and start even without interning? Oh, well, to answer that question, what I would like to just share with everyone is the biggest reason, this is from my point of view, or the main reason why doing an internship is so important. And I actually saw someone ask a question. I was saying, what's the right time to do your internship? Is it your first year? Is it your second year? Is it when you reach third year? Is it when you reach fourth year? I would say as soon as you can. If you go to UNZA and you're in the first year and you get the chance to intern, do it there and then. Do not waste time. Do not wait until you reach your third year. Do not wait until you reach your fourth year. Do it there and then. My number one reason for the importance of doing an internship is basically gaining skills. Skills are very important. A lot of employees out there are really looking for skills in graduates or even people who want to intern. And skills are kind of rare, considering the fact that our education system, I'm sorry to say this, but I feel personally, from my point of view, that our education system, specifically at the University of Zambia, is kind of lagged behind. I feel like other universities have really moved forward, but our universities are still focused on too much theory and, doing all that strenuous work, doing the mathematics and all those things. Of course, I might be biased towards courses like business administration and economics, because that's what I did. But I'm sure people have got their own views. If you're from the School of Education, or if you're from the School of Engineering, you have your own experience. But yeah, my point is skills are really important. And when you get an internship, you reach a point where you are challenged to actually learn new skills. I personally, when I went to intern at Amano Capital, so I started my internship in third year. That was before I actually went into full employment. Luckily, through networking and talking to a few individuals, I got the chance to actually intern in my December holiday back then when I was in third year. And when I got to work, they just threw me at the deep end. The first thing I was taught to do, obviously, I was introduced to the workmates. They showed me how things go down. But the first thing they told me was, you know what, there's this article that needs to be written. Everyone is kind of busy right now. We need you to do a research on this and start typing it right now. We need you to write something and submit it by afternoon. And being someone who did economics and business administration, whilst I was at school, my focus was so much on mathematical courses. Like most of the time I would spend, my studying time, even my extra time, just doing calculations, learning a few theory here and there. And I wasn't really like sitting and looking at my writing skills, How is my grammar? Is my grammar really good? How fast am I when it comes to typing? Am I a slow guy when I'm typing, or am I a fast guy? So those were things that I was challenged. Those are the challenges that I faced when I started. I had to teach myself now how to type fast, because I was always avoiding courses that involved writing assignments and all those things. I would tell myself and convince myself with my friends that, writing assignments is boring. I can't be seated, writing essays and stuff like that. But when you actually get to work, especially if you're from the School of Education and from the School of Humanities, that's what actually happens. You are constantly writing. You're constantly writing emails to people. You're going to be constantly writing essays. You're going to be constantly writing reports. You're going to be almost everything is presented in written form. You're sending emails to people. You're writing articles, letters, and everything to your supervisors, and all that information has to be typed down. That's obviously using Word. So you actually, if you are someone who doesn't type a lot or someone who doesn't use Word, you'll be challenged, or you face the challenge of being slow. Your supervisors or whoever is above you will be on your head. They'll be forcing you. They'll be telling you, what's happening? Why are you so slow? So one of the main things that I actually appreciate from my first internship was it taught me how to write and how to write fast. That's typing. And secondly, I feel building a network is also something that I really I benefited from my internship experience. So the company that I was working for was a financial institution, Amano Capital, or it actually is a financial institution that helps SMEs in raising capital. So we were involved in advisory work from time to time, and also do other work related to raising capital. But we got to interact with so many small businesses. We would meet different people, almost on a daily basis. Every day you would face someone who comes to you and tells you, I've got this business idea. This is what I want to do. What are your thoughts about it? Do you think this is something that's fundable? But through that process, we were constantly interacting with different people and building a network. And I was always, communicating with people, saving people's numbers and all those things. And till today, those people that I actually, and till today, okay, I think there's someone who has their mic on. Anyway, till today, I'm still benefiting from those networks that I've built, in the sense that I've so far I've had let me say work experience with 3 companies on average. And what's actually good, I don't know if I can say if it's funny, is I've never actually sat down and written an application and send it to the companies that I've actually worked for. It was just through the network that I built when I was working with people. Even whilst I was at the University of Zambia, I was constantly talking to people, sharing my ideas with them, getting to know people. And with time, they actually get to reach out to you. They tell you, no, there's an opportunity this side. Would you be interested in doing this? And just like that, that's how I would end up to, those places where I interned, where I worked, and where I currently am at the moment. So an internship will help you build a network, and that network can even, could be something that would help you reach your next job. It could be something that can help you with, let's say you're not someone who's looking forward to, working for someone, but you actually want to start your own company. In that case, update my network. But anyway, yeah, as I was saying, then your network is, there's a quote that one of my mentors actually told me. He said to me that your network is your net worth. Always try, by all means, either through your internship experience or before you get an internship, always try by all means to interact with as many people as possible. You never know who you might help tomorrow, or who might actually help you in getting your next job or your next internship experience. And lastly, I feel this is very, very, very critical. One thing that I've really appreciated from my internship experience is that it gave me confidence. I know confidence is something that a couple of people actually, other people are naturally born with confidence, but growing up, I feel like I wasn't someone who was very confident, and I usually used to face that challenge. But when you actually get to do an internship or you find yourself in a work environment, you actually get to see what goes down. And it would be actually great if you find yourself in a role like the one I was in the sense that I was interacting with so many people almost every day, having meetings with people from different areas of life, discussing, finding solutions to problems and all those things. So in the process, I developed the ability to question people, to express myself, to do presentations, to talk to people, to look people in the eyes, give proper handshakes, and just be able to communicate. And that confidence has helped me in so many ways. Recently, so for the role that the role that I'm at right now, where I'm working, I was just recently called by the HR manager there, and the person just told me, get ready, in the next 30 minutes we're going to interview you. This is something that I didn't prepare for, but because of the interaction that I've had with so many people and the internship experience of talking to different people, learning how to communicate with people, personal skills basically, I was able to say, okay, I'm ready for that interview. Call me then. Then, they fired questions at me. They asked me different things about my life. But because I've been able through experience to build confidence, I was able to confidently answer those questions and use all the knowledge that I've gained from my internship experience combined with everything that I learned in class. I was able to give brilliant answers to those interviewers, and they were very impressed with what I taught them. And that's how I actually ended up getting that role. Yes. So, yeah, in a nutshell, I would say an internship is very vital. It's something that I would advise each and every person to, if you're in uni, it's something that from my point of view, I feel like everyone must do an internship. It might look like it's not a necessity, especially if you're from the School of Humanities where no one actually forces you to do an internship. You have to go out there on your own and write letters to companies, talk to people, try to find your way into a company. It kind of becomes discouraging in some way. You don't get that confidence, unlike our friends from the School of Natural Sciences, who their curriculum actually involves them, to do what do you call them again? Attachments. For us, we tend to be more relaxed because it's not a must, but it's something that you really appreciate when you move forward, especially when you graduate. Because right now, I'm pretty sure a lot of us are aware the job market in Zambia is very rough. It's not easy to get a job out there. Every time you apply for a job, they'll always ask you, what experience do you have? What skills do you possess? And experience comes from an internship. Skills are built in internships. So if you are able to do an internship or find yourself an internship while you're still at the university, it puts you at an advantage in the sense that when you apply for a job, when you finish school, you'll be able to, speak to your employers, give them proper examples to say, no, when I was in my second year, when I was in my third year, when I was in my fourth year, I interned with this company. I learned such skills. I improved my writing skills. You can even talk about Excel, like Nelly said. Excel is something that's also very vital, especially those in the School of Humanities. Almost every organization now operates with Excel in terms of doing presentations, and also if you're going to be working with data. So the skills are gained from an internship. The experience is simply the internship that you did whilst you were still in university. So you have to try by all means to just get that internship, even if it's 1 month, even if someone tells you, no, we only have an opening for 2 weeks. Experience is experience. What you're going to learn within 2 weeks from an organization is very important and will actually make your CV look very, what do you call it again? It will make your CV heavy compared to someone who hasn't done anything at all. So I think from my point of view, that's all I had to share with everyone. I don't know okay, I'm seeing questions coming in. I think we can now get to the questions and answers, and I would love to answer a couple of questions. The moderator can take over.
Okay, thank you for that, Bob. Thank you to all three speakers. I've personally learned a lot, and I can see some comments. Some people are saying there's positivity coming from the chat section, so I know I'm not the only one enjoying this. So thank you for that once more. So right now we're going to get into the chat, the question and answer section, sorry. But just before that, a word from one of our committee executive members. Jemima.
Hi, thank you, Domisa. My name is Jemima Chela, and I am the Publicity Secretary of the Unzabeka Internship Committee. Just a quick announcement. For those of you that are interested, we're going to be having a training program, the Unzabeka Basics of ICT training program. It's a training program that's going to last from the 9th of August to the 11th of August. The time will be communicated. And we will be focusing on learning Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. So if that's something that interests you, please stay tuned. More details will be given. And then for those of you that would like to be certified, you'd like to receive a certificate for this training, certificates will be available for 100 kwacha. Though it's really up to you. If you don't want a certificate, if you want, it's up to you. So yes, guys, the Unzabeka Basics of ICT training program is on from the 9th to the 11th of August, and more details will be shared. Thank you, Domisa.
Okay, thank you for that, Jemima. Right, so at this point, we're going to get into the question and answer section. I haven't seen any questions that have been directed to a particular person, so I suppose any of the three can answer. So I'll ask a question, and then Nelly, Rhoda, Bob, anyone can answer the question. It's up to you. So the first question is from Nkole Mulenga, and he says, how can you know about adverts for companies looking for interns?
Okay, I think I can take that one. So I don't know if you've heard of a website called Go Zambia Jobs. It's mainly for jobs, but they also do advertise internships there. Different companies share openings that are happening in their companies. So you can look it up. You can constantly be checking it every day because it's updated almost hourly. Every time an opportunity comes up, they always post it on their website. So something that you want to be looking at every day, probably maybe in the morning, or you can be doing it in the evening, is going to the website called Go Zambia Jobs and just look through the opportunities that are there. And luckily, you find something that's in line with your passion or what your career trajectory. And another platform that you can also make use of is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is also a good platform to actually find job and internship opportunities. I don't know how their algorithms work, but every time I log into my LinkedIn, I always get notifications of certain job opportunities that are in my area. Sometimes they would even show me some things that are outside Lusaka, and also they're just depending on your network. But since LinkedIn is a very professional networking platform, people tend to share such opportunities. If there is a job opportunity or an internship opportunity, people just post it on their news feed. So as you go through, you tend to find such things. So you can make use of Go Zambia Jobs, and you can also make use of LinkedIn. And one last thing is Unzabeka as well. You can join the internship committee. I remember when I was in the internship committee, we had our own WhatsApp group. And as members of the committee, we used to share, opportunities. when your friend, goes to Facebook, goes to Twitter or Instagram, and they find something interesting, they would share it in the WhatsApp group, and we would all, apply for these things, and luckily, get the jobs or the internships. So you can make use of that. Yeah, social media. You can also use Unzabeka as your means to reach out to your potential employers. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Bob. I'm sure Uncole's question has been answered. And there was one just above that from Augustine. So I suppose that has been answered as well. So there's another question from Alice here, and she says, what are some of the organizations where an economics student can have an internship from? So I'll read the question again. What are some of the organizations where an economics student can have an internship from?
I can take that, Domisa.
Okay.
So I feel like I kind of answered it. There's so many places where an economics or business student can work. Like I mentioned, some people are restricted to working in a hospital or the mines. But as an economics student, you are a business-related student, so you can do accounting-related work, you can do economics-related work, you can do administrative work just to get the experience. So within our locality, places like banks, if you can get an opportunity to get an internship at a commercial bank, that would really help you build that up. Any microfinance institutions, that can also help you. Rhoda worked at an innovation hub, that can help you. So even auditing firms, there's pretty much a wide range of firms you can work for.
Okay, thanks, Nelly. And then there's another question from Rhoda. Sorry, another question from Collins and a message from Rhoda as well. So Rhoda says, I'm happy to help you tailor your LinkedIn accounts. Do get in touch with me. And she's left her email address there. So you can just check the messages. rodakakoma@gmail.com. Yeah, so thank you, Rhoda. And then Collins says, at what year of study can I get an internship? So what is the best year for getting an internship, I think, yeah.
I think Bob slightly touched on this to say as soon as you get the opportunity, just go for it. And I agree with him. There's no specific year that would be best. Even, in fact, the earlier you get to have internship experience, the better. I'd also like to touch a bit more on the question that Bob already answered on whether Unzabeka can help you get an internship. I think I'm a testimony of Unzabeka getting me an internship, and it's not because I was a member of Unzabeka at the time, but it's because I was active in Unzabeka. So the Bongo Hive employed me. One of the reasons that they employed me, or one of the reasons that they noticed me at the time, was because I was very active in Unzabeka, trying to host these webinars, trying to make sure that students are heard on different platforms and students are learning. So it's more about putting yourself out there rather than just belonging to Unzabeka.
Okay, thank you for that, Rhoda. Okay, so there are some questions that are similar to others that have already been asked, that have already been answered. So I'll just scroll down and so I think there's a question from Limpo, and she says, being an economics major and development studies minor, when searching for an internship, is it directed to either the major or the minor? Secondly, how do you approach these firms, considering that interns are not mandatory in humanities? How do I gather up the confidence during an interview?
I can answer parts of that question. Okay. Or parts of it. So no, it's not directed to your major and your minor. Just convince them on your capabilities. It's rarely related to your minor. Maybe your major would be of prime importance, but usually not related to your minor. People do have different experiences. Some companies do care about your minor, and so they would ask, what did you minor in, and know if you have, if maybe they're looking for somebody who minored in BBA, and because you did DS, they might disadvantage you, or they would advantage someone who's done DS instead of someone who's done BBA. But in most instances, convince them on your capabilities, your extra skills, and that you can do the job. And then for an interview, how you can gather up courage, do prepare for it, and confidence, prepare for the interview. So like what I did check the internet and like look for extra tips on how to prepare for an interview. You must know more about the company even before you go for the interview. Find out what they do, get a clear picture on the role you are assigned, so that you're able to convince them during the interview that you are the capable candidate for that opening.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm sure that question has been answered. So there's another question from Jemima, and this one is for Rhoda. And she says, how do you communicate with your employers if they are not fulfilling their end of their agreement, e.g. they are not paying you for airtime, etc.? So Rhoda, that's your question.
Well, that's a difficult question to answer, to be honest. If your employer is not paying you or giving you what they owe you, I'm not so sure how you can handle it, like in terms of you not, but one thing I'll say, okay, is no matter the approach of communication you use, whether you send them an email to remind them or to tell them about the current situation that they haven't paid you, you need to put respect first. So you need to make sure that you say it in the most respectful tone. People are human. They tend to falter sometimes. Sometimes they tend to forget. Other times they might be exploiting you and you may not know it, but you still just need to exercise patience and use the right words to remind them in the most respectful tone. At the end of the day, you're an intern and you're just looking for experience. So you really need to just be very polite to them and gently remind them. That's what I would say.
Okay, thank you, Rhoda. Jemima, I hope that answers your question. All right, so I think every question has been answered. I hope I haven't missed any question. I think they have all been answered. Yes, okay, so I think we've pretty much touched on everything. Okay, so there's one question from Haita here, and he says, also asking about the name of the Facebook group or organization that Nelly mentioned that helps interns.
Oh, what I did mention was a Facebook page that shows multiple ads. So the same one Bob mentioned, Go Zambia Jobs.
Okay, thank you for that, Nelly. Okay, so it's 17:02. The program was set to end at 17. Yes, Rhoda?
I just had a random thought while Nelly was sharing about the Go Zambia jobs. Just a reminder to you that even as you apply using platforms like you found a job on Go Zambia or you found a job on Facebook, nowadays companies recruit you using a software. Like they have updated softwares that are going to check through your CVs, check through your cover letter. So you need to make sure that whatever role you're applying for, you're tailoring your CV to the qualifications that they're looking for, the skills that they're looking for, not specifically that you should be lying, but what I'm saying is you need to make sure that in your CV and your cover letter, you're matching everything. Otherwise, the whole system, the whole software, when it doesn't detect those skills in your application, it automatically rejects you. So you stand a higher chance when you tailor your CV and your cover letter to what the company wants.
Okay, thank you very much, Rhoda, for that. Thank you so much. So thank you to everyone for listening in today. We really appreciate you all. We appreciate the comments, the feedback, the messages that came in through the chat section. This webinar would not have been what it was without you. Also, thank you so much to the speakers for doing a remarkable job today with the presentations. Thank you so much for taking the time off your obviously busy schedules just to be with us today. We really appreciate that. Thanks to Vovo Listing for aiding us with the link as always, and to everybody who just played a part in ensuring that this webinar was a success. So thank you so much. I cannot thank you all enough. So at this point, I think we can close the webinar. We can close the session. Thank you all once more and have a pleasant evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
You too.